Have you ever felt like you were being watched in your own home? Imagine looking out your window one morning and seeing a trail of footprints in the fresh snow. They start at the edge of the dark forest and lead directly to your front door. But when you look closer, you realize something terrifying. There are no footprints leading back out. Whoever walked to your house last night is still inside. This is not a ghost story. This is the true unsolved horror of the Hinterkaifeck farm. In 1922, 6 people lived on a small, isolated farm in Germany. The head of the household was Andreas Gruber. He was a strict and difficult man who didn't like strangers. But a few days before the tragedy, Andreas began to notice strange things happening around his property. It started with the footprints. He found a set of tracks in the snow leading from the woods to the machine room lock, which had been broken. But no one had entered the main house. That night, the family heard footsteps in the attic, heavy pacing back and forth above their heads while they tried to sleep. Andreas checked the attic multiple times. He checked the barn, he checked the perimeter, but he found nobody. Yet the feeling of being watched grew stronger. A set of house keys went missing from the kitchen table. A newspaper that nobody in the family had bought appeared on the porch. Someone was living in the shadows of their home, playing a game with them. The fear was so palpable that their original maid quit 6 months earlier. She told the family that the house was haunted. She said she could hear voices in the walls and felt eyes watching her from the darkness. She begged to leave and she fled the farm, likely saving her own life. On March 31st, the family hired a new maid named Maria. It was her first day on the job. She arrived at the farm in the afternoon, unpacked her things, and prepared for her first night of work. She had no idea that she had just walked into a death trap. That very evening, as the sun went down, the game ended. And the slaughter began. One by one, the family members were lured into the barn. We still don't know exactly how it happened or why they went out there. Perhaps they heard a noise. Or perhaps they were called. First was Andreas, then his wife. Then his daughter, and her young daughter, Cecilia. As they stepped into the darkness of the barn, they were struck down instantly. The killer used a mattock, a tool similar to a pickaxe. The attacks were brutal and precise. After killing the 4 family members in the barn, the killer didn't flee. Instead, he walked calmly into the farmhouse. He went to the maid's room where Maria was sleeping and killed her in her bed. Then he went to the crib of the youngest family member, a 2-year-old baby boy, and ended his life. By midnight, everyone on the farm was dead. But the horror story doesn't end here. This is where it gets truly disturbing. The bodies were not discovered for 4 days. During those 4 days, neighbors saw smoke rising from the chimney. They saw the cattle being let out into the yard. They even saw lights flickering in the windows at night. The killer didn't leave. He stayed in the house with the corpses. He cooked meals in the kitchen. He fed the cattle in the barn, stepping over the bodies of the family to get to the feed. He slept in their beds. When the neighbors finally investigated because the mail was piling up, they found a house frozen in time. The food in the pantry had been eaten. The bed was slept in, but the killer was gone. The police interviewed over 100 suspects. They questioned neighbors, drifters, and thieves, but they never found the person who lived with the dead for 4 days. Eventually, the farm was demolished. But locals say that on quiet winter nights, if you stand near the woods where the house once stood, you can still hear the sound of footsteps in the snow. Footprints that lead to you but never walk away. Subscribe for more true horror documentaries.